Alright, so here we are for race number 3 of the Transatlantic Triple Crown Series hosted by HFG. And this is the only race on the list that is dynamic weather. We do not know, well, did not know what the weather would be beforehand, and now we can obviously see it is going to be quite rainy for what we can currently see is going to be the entire race. We will have to see as the race goes on. It is subject to change, obviously. Again, dynamic weather, anything can happen. But these are some pretty tough conditions to start in. This is a tough track as it is, at least for me. And with these conditions, it's only going to make it harder. So this should be an exciting one. Anything is bound to happen, especially with the Cup cars leading us. They are prone to spin. So, you know, just in general, and then with the weather added on top of that, they are going to have a tough time, so this should be exciting. Let's get to the green flag.
Now, Urs brings us round towards the back end of this circuit between turn 15 and 16. He's going to turn the corner, he's going to see those lights, and he's going to wait for that flag to go green, and he's going to put his foot flat on the floor all the way down towards the complex of 1, 2 and 3 in this very wet track conditions. As you can see there, he now has the starting lights in front of him. Here we go, and we're going to be racing at Misano very shortly. We are racing as we now have a green light with 1 hour and 50 minutes left to go. Urs gets a fantastic start. Car number 37 Porsche heading down towards turn 1.
Green light, go, go, go. Car on the left, clear on the left. Car on the left, clear on the left.
That was one heck of a dodge. I know it probably didn't look like it because how slow we were going, but that was not easy.
Slow car ahead. Yellow flag ahead, be careful.
Moves his way now up into P2. Steve Enderez is round and Chris has hit the front of him. That is going to be the end of Steve's race in P1 for the time being. He's going to have to pit for damage repairs. Chris obviously will have taken a substantial amount of damage.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
With Drew Matthews getting his podium place of P3 as he now comes around to start his lap going through turns 3, 4 and 5. He was in P3 there, inherited that podium position after Chris Springbrook had that unfortunate incident with Steve Enderez and then also span at the top end of the circuit, putting him back down into P12 for his recovery race. I would not be surprised, I'm not a betting man, I would not be surprised if we don't see that Lamborghini 111 pit soon for the extreme undercut. I'm also getting flagged up that car number 11 has span on the track, which...
Fastest lap of the race, great job there. There's a slow car ahead. Yellow flag, be careful there. Yellow flag in sector 2.
Kurt Bradbury up into P3. What's happened to Drew Matthews, I wonder? As he's up into P1. He has taken the lead off Yerst. He is 9 laps into this race, starting his 10th, and he is leading this race. Go on, Drew. This is going to be a great result for him if he can make it stick. But we have seen the conditions are very tricky out there, and there's still 58 minutes left to go. Anything could happen for the car number 13, now leading the way by nearly 6 seconds as he comes up towards turn 4 and 5. Yerst Hughes is leading this race by a significant gap so far. He also holds the fastest lap by the 1:48.447 as he now goes down towards the back end of the circuit of turns 13 and 14 themselves. This is the first race we've had with Drew Matthews now leading the way without his usual fan club in the YouTube chat. Now that's a first and unfortunate incident for him. Just checking how many, we've got 7 watchers at the moment on the channel. We'll stay on board with Drew for a little bit longer before switching back to Chris Davids, who is now up into P7. See what it looks like from his perspective out there, although the car number 13, Drew Matthews, is a long way up the road and he is having a comfortable margin here at the moment, keeping things steady. The rain is going to stop in the next 10 minutes, so we're told, based on the server forecast, so anything could happen. Yet these pit strategies are going to have to be absolutely crucial. Getting that change from wet tyres to dry tyres is going to be an absolute art to try and get this perfect. So, we have got some support for Drew in the chat. P1 as it stands at the moment, comfortable lead of 4 seconds, not losing control of that car at any point, staying on board with him there as he now comes up towards turn 1 to start his 12th lap of this race. Conditions are favourable to him at the moment. He does appear to be doing everything he needs to do to maintain that place. See what it looks like from the cockpit. Ooh, a little bit of oversteer there. That may have been the commentators that curves a little bit. See what things look like from his helmet cam as he now comes around towards turns 5 and turns 6. on board with Drew then, as he's now on his 12th lap of this race with a comfortable lead of nearly 4.5 seconds. Let's just switch to an external camera so we can get the best view here. We've gone board with the TV cameras, I think. That should give us one of the better views. And again, these drivers are going to be waiting for this track to dry up before they serve those all-important pit stops that are coming. We know they're coming, but the drivers are going to try and hold up until it... Now, it doesn't take long, Joseph, for me to start running people's races with that. I think out of the 4 races I last commentated on, the driver that I then spoke about actually span and crash, and Chris Springbrook is 2 of those races that I'm talking about, so I make no apologies for that. Some of us have a job to do, and it's a coincidence, I am sure. No ballast being applied from the broadcast mode this evening. Drew Matthews there, still leading a comfortable race here, 3.7 seconds in the lead. Yerst is just not too far behind him there, catching up with him now. You can see over the Logitech rear wing there, the Porsche just coming around. Turns 4 and 5, running a little bit wide there on the exit. Can he keep it nice and tidy through here? He can, no curve at all needed. We'll lost a little bit of time there, but nowhere near as much time as you lose if you go too wide over those speed bumps. Yerst is on a mission now. His fastest lap is a 4.82. Drew Matthews is a 4.84. Interestingly, the fastest ever lap round here is a 1:32.6, which is held by the GT3 cars, and 1:41.9 by the GT4 cars. So that was 2 years ago. So there has been some significant technological advances there with these cars in real life. So not too much that can be judged on that. 3 seconds now, Yerst is. He's on his way back from Drew. Can Drew keep his way in front? On board with Drew Matthews there, because we know Yerst is getting a little bit closer to him. You can see that Porsche is the closest it's been all race so far. Rain is going to stop in less than 10 minutes. Give it another 10 minutes after that, I would have thought we'll start to see a dry line form, and then these drivers are going to want to start thinking about pitting with 50 minutes left to go. Jackie Harris in the barriers there, I believe. Car number 159, yellow flag. He's going to stay there until the pack moves past him, so he needs to move now, or he needs to wait. Steve Ender is back up into P3. Chris Davies back down into P9. Has he had another off, I wonder? And
fastest lap of the race, mate. Good job.
we've still got Drew Matthews leading by 3 seconds. Yerst cannot break that 3-second barrier that he's currently got. The DNA Racing Lamborghini there, very dominant at the moment. What he's going to have to do, though, is get this change from wet to dry tyres absolutely perfect. Otherwise, Yerst will seize that opportunity, and we know Yerst is quick in the dry. And we stay on board with Drew as they now come down towards turn 13 himself. The way so far, Drew Matthews still in the lead, 2 seconds. That's the smallest gap we've seen so far, as he now comes around towards turn 16, making it very careful he doesn't drop on the curb there. Looks like he locked the front right going in towards turn 16 there. Don't want to be doing that too often, especially as the track starts to dry on a set of wet tyres. Won't take you long before you start to square these off. Obviously the ABS is going to have to be reflected. Let's just jump on board with his helmet cam and give you his inputs as he takes us around this part of the track. You can see how sensitive he is being on the throttle there in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Running 57% brake balance as well. And to put some corrective action in there, you can just see how smooth he is on the application of the brake on and off, which you've really got to be during this. And this corner in particular, I'm very interested to see how he deals with the throttle here, because if you take too much curb, you can, yeah, there you are, quick feather, and doesn't apply full throttle until he knows he has made it around the corner indeed. Let's jump on board with the external cameras. He now takes it down towards turn 8, leading this race. That car number 17 working its way up the pack. Drew Matthews there still in the lead, 2.1 seconds. And you can see the rain has now stopped, I believe. Yeah, they've got the wipers on still for the spray of the cars, but it won't be long now before we get a dry line forming. In fact, you can actually see the dry line starting to form now there. I'm using my mouse, which you can't see, but there's a dark line on the apexes of corners. The McLaren there, Zachary, just comes into pit. I wonder whether he's going to jump to dry tyres early. That will be an interesting call if he does, as he takes out the sign, the speed limit sign there. Obviously, he didn't want to follow those instructions at all. Through there now, and looks like he's just coming to the pits as well. He's 8 seconds down on this lap. Drew still very much in the lead of this race. He'll be very comfortable to know that 10-second gap is there. Gives him a little bit of pressure release when it comes to selecting that strategy. Chris. 9, so I'm guessing he's running the dry tyres. Drew Matthews in P1 still. Yerst is his nearest competitor, who is 10 seconds back. Close that gap by 10 seconds, who may just pip him to P1. This is going to be really bad timing actually for Cross, because you're going to come out right at the same time as the leader, so he's going to get blue flags straight away for Drew Matthews' Lamborghini, unless Drew can make it through that complex before the end of the pit lane. It's a really long pit exit here. It takes an absolute age to get through, and it looks like he actually made it through. And indeed he has, only just, as you can see, the Porsche there tucks in behind the leader, not causing any problems there at all. We're 45 minutes into this race, and it looks like Drew Matthews as well is coming into the pit stop. So the leader pits for this race. 44 minutes in, he's going to change his tyres. He may refuel, we don't know. I don't know whether refueling is on or off for these drivers. All I know is it's not mandatory, so it's going to be a case of up on the track, jacks and straight off. Yerst takes the lead of this race. The net lead of this race, as it stands at the moment, still remains.
Mandatory stop and start here. Come on, go, go.
Let's see how things fare for him. His last lap was not a valid one, unfortunately, so we can't see what that pace advantage is yet. But what I can tell you is Drew is still very much in Yerst's pit window. So
Car on the right. Clear on the right. Car on the left. Clear on the left.
So Drew Matthews, let's run on board with him for a bit. And he's got the Porsche number 17 Jiu-Jitsu there company, who's just served his 30-second stop go. Rouse is fortunate, still running things a little bit wide. Drew still in P5. Hulber in the pits. I wonder if Drew must have dropped it at some point that we've not seen. I don't think he has. We've been on board with him most of the time. This is going to be really interesting. Either my timing screen is messed up or we're not seeing a representative time of what I thought we were going to see by Drew after his pit stop. Let's stay on board with him for the time being. Yes, it's on his 29th lap now. Drew on his 28th. Drew still stands P4.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
Point now of where is our net leader Drew Matthews going to come out on Yers, and has Yers done enough to close that gap down and the pit window? Let's ride on board with Drew Matthews for a bit now then as we see him. And I will tell you, I'll keep an eye on Yers' time and I'll let you know when he's leaving the pits and how tight this is going to be. Turns 14, turn 15. Yes, to serve his pit stop, and he is trundling towards the end of the pit lane. Drew makes 16, foot flat on the floor now, coming down towards, so you can see the net leader there at the end of the pit lane now. This is going to be really close, and has Yers done enough to close that gap? Drew surely has done enough with his pace to come out in front of Yers on this occasion. Well, he hasn't. He is not. Yers has now come out as P1. He has done enough to close that gap. Drew Matthews is now going to be P2 for this.
Fastest lap of the race, man. Good job. Car on the left. Clear on the left.
So Drew there has not had the pace to respond to Yers, and you've got to give it to Yers. That strategy he's put in play there with 18 minutes left to go worked a treat. He stayed out on the wet tyres, pushing longer than he needed to do so, overheating them and managing them, which has done enough to keep him out in front of this race. And as I said again at the start of this race, the net leader is Yers, and every race at some point in this series he has not led and then has gone to leaving through an error. So we see the out wide error earlier, which put him back down into P4 at Paul Ricard. We see the spin on lap 1, and at Imola as well we did see the off-track moment as well, which meant we had a brief change in lead, but Yers again P1 on his out lap with the two GT4s in front, who are obviously currently leading this race, but won't be because of the two pit stops they've got in hand. 17 minutes of this race left to go. Your top net two are Yers and Drew themselves as they complete their lap. Sauna, 30-second stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I don't think he'll know he's got that yet though, because he's still in it. Drew not too far behind. This may get spicy towards the end of this race. They are lapping at very similar lap times indeed. Yers is now on the dry tyres, so you'd expect to see that Porsche come to life a little bit more than what we've seen in the wet. And I do feel a little bit for Drew after that amazing first stint he put in, but Yers' strategy, his mind game and his strategy game was so much stronger on this occasion.
Fastest lap of the race. Great job there.
Now, but Yers is about to have some company on that rear wing. If you go on board with him there, you can see Drew Matthews is now within a second of him. And then last lap, Drew Matthews was nearly a second faster than Yers. This race is far from done. Drew's driving a solid race here, but can he keep it together for the last 13 minutes with that rain coming? Still got a greasy track, so these drivers are having to hesitate a little bit when applying that throttle. Don't want to put too much down, otherwise you will end up, as we saw with our Jitsu, with your rear end in that tyre wall. and the rear end just lifts, and once it goes there is absolutely no catching it at all. The only thing you can do is just hope it doesn't go into the tyre barrier like we saw earlier. Still a second between that gap there. You can see Drew Matthews is absolutely on fire this afternoon, or this evening depending on where you're watching, as he now goes down out of turn 10. So we've got a pretty good exit out of there, and in a straight line it looks as though Drew might even be catching yours, as he is now in 1.6 seconds now. So he's down on the exit of 10, but straight line speed, very interesting considering the Porsche should be where it is. These two drivers are about to cross the line again for the 34th time of this race, and let's see what sort of lap times we're going to get here, because this will tell us whether Joost's outlap was affecting his pace or whether Drew is genuinely quicker than him on this occasion. As he turns 16 now, taking not too much curve, don't run too wide here, a little bit of corrective steering there needed by Drew. Joost crossed the line there with a 1:42.2. Drew crosses the line with a 1:43.3. So Joost has found some pace and has responded to that threat behind. He's got his P1, he's got 12 minutes left to go. All he needs to do is keep the car on the track. We've now got a green tracks. The grip is starting to come through. He's had a cracking race, Drew has. So he's performed it, but unfortunately the Porsche in front of him, yes, which you would expect the Porsche to be leading the race, don't get me wrong. But the strategy there has outdone him. I think if Drew could have kept the Porsche behind him, he probably could have kept it there. So unfortunately the Porsche, yes, had a much better strategy and a much better mindset going into that strategy than the Lambo, but Drew will still be happy with P2. And at the end of the day, Jost, I would have thought, will have gone into this race not expecting to win, but certainly expecting to try and grab some heavy points haul. Car number 24 there, giving me some yellow flags, which is Fernandez. See him have a drive-through penalty earlier, which I'm going to assume is for those track limits. 8 minutes left of this race then. We are 1 hour and 6 minutes into it. Several changes in lead. Drew Matthews still in P2. Looks like that Porsche is too far up the road now for him now, as he is 6.2 seconds back, and that battle looks very much done unless Jost decides to drop it somewhere he shouldn't. Chris Davis.
Yellow flag, be careful there. There's a slow car ahead. Car on the left, clear on the left.
There, with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left to go this race, we've got Drew leading the way, which obviously is great news for those of you following him. Back on board the helicopter, you can see Jost there. He's 2.6 seconds off Drew. He is going to be lapping a lot faster than Drew, so Drew has still got a lot of work to do to keep that Porsche behind, but it is definitely upper hand to him now, and he just needs to defend like mad and keep that Lamborghini absolutely planted where he can do and park it on the curb. He just needs to make sure he doesn't let that Porsche by. So the Porsche, we know on true speed and lap time, should get by Drew. But Drew obviously can make it very difficult to overtake. You can see already that gap's come right down. That McLaren's right in the way. That's not helped Drew at all.
Car on the left. Clear on the left.
But Drew's got some work to do now. We've got 3 minutes. It's just started to rain as well, I'm told. Let's jump aboard the helmet cam. You can see... You can see on board with Jost there, you can see he's on at the back of that Lamborghini. It has started to rain on track. This track is going to get very, very greasy very, very quickly, as it's not fully dried out itself. It's still fast, but it's not optimum. So, car number 13 there, the Lamborghini. He's going to be on dry tyres. He's got the Ginetta in front of him that should be moving up both them blue flags, which it's not. Although, to be fair, it's not a convenient place to pass. Drew has got to keep that Porsche behind him now if he wants to win this race. What's he going to do as they now go up towards turn 7 and 8? You can see Drew Matthews there. He's got the Porsche right behind him. Porsche pulling out to the right there, right hand side there. The Ginetta's going to be right in the wrong place there for the Porsche to get by, and that's helped Drew a million, as the Ginetta's now going to hold up the Porsche.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
To give Drew a little bit of breathing space. It is raining on the track. Very light drizzle, very light indeed. But yes, they're making it through. Drew needs a really clean exit here, otherwise that Porsche is going to absolutely gobble him up down the main straight. We'll stay on board with his rear wing. You can see the Porsche there didn't get the great exit because the blue flag was just in the wrong place, although you can see from straight line speed the Porsche is certainly not disappearing anytime soon. 2 minutes 20 left to go. I reckon there must be 2 laps left of this race. Let's see when he crosses the line. We'll soon see exactly what this is going to look like. Oh yeah, it's just getting a little bit close there. We're going to have a last lap battle is what I think we're going to have here at tonight's HFG Transatlantic Triple Crown race. 1 minute 59 to go. They're lapping at 1:42. So Drew, unfortunately, is going to have to defend for 2 more laps, I think. Which he's going to be absolutely gutted about. That Porsche is all over the back of him. He really could have done with just being 1 more lap left to go, but I think he's going to have to defend for 2. The rain is just drizzling at the moment. You can barely see it. Don't think it'll come through on the stream at all. Certainly is off track. The Porsche there looking so racy indeed. Drew is going to have to plant that Lamborghini exactly where Joest doesn't want it to try and stay in front. You can see them coming around there down towards turn 7 now. Drew's going to have to defend like mad going into turn 8 as the Porsche now is on the back of him. Porsche is going to pull out and try and make a move down the inside of 8, just a bit too far back on this particular occasion. 1 minute left of this race. I still think there's going to be another lap. Joest is going to try and make this move down in turn 10. Drew is going to need the best exit of turn 10 he's had all afternoon to make this stick. Otherwise that Porsche is going to be all over the back of him. He's got, can't knock that exit. He got a very good exit there. It's exactly what he needed on that occasion. The Porsche, you can just see the straight line speed of Joest's Porsche though, catching on Drew. Joest is all over the back of him. He's got 30 seconds left of this race, and I think Drew's going to cross the line a bit deep there for Drew, and the Porsche gets a bit squirrely as well. Drew's going to keep the position. Oof. 20 seconds left of this race now. Drew could tactically lift here and make the checkered flag come down 1 lap early, but I don't think he's going to want to do that with Joest all over the back of him. He's defended this entire lap. 8 seconds. He's going to cross the line here with 1 more lap to go. Oh, 1 more lap. Yes, he's going to put that on the inside, which is exactly where he doesn't want the car to be. As he sends it up the inside, taking a lot of curve there. And Drew's going to keep the inside line there. Oh, and Joest has made the move around the outside of 3 and 4. Drew's going to try and come back at him though. As Joest goes wide, he's going to have to lift a bit there to make up that time. And Drew really did not need that second lap to come in after that timer dropped down to 1 second. If it had just lifted by 3 seconds, the checkered flag would have dropped all over the back of that Porsche. I mean, we can't take it away from Joest. That was a fantastic overtake that we saw in towards turn 1, up the inside of that curb. But the raw pace of that Porsche is incredible, which we've seen so far this series. You can already see the gap that he's creating on Drew. And I would have said that unless Joest makes a mistake, this race is very much done and dusted and sealed for the car number 37. There is still half a lap left to go, and we're right on board with the Lamborghini himself, Drew Matthews, who has done a fantastic job this race from start to finish. Joest, his strategy was fantastic. He has made mistakes, Joest has, and he has come back from them, so you cannot deny him of this victory. Both drivers deserve it. And I think, as I said earlier, we're going to see the car number 37 take victory for the 3rd time this series in round 3. Of course, we are racing again next week at Kyalami. And Joest is going to come across the line there, and that is done deal. I did say earlier in this race, once the Porsche clears the Lamborghini, he will be comfortably ahead. So that was a fantastic last lap that we just saw there. Last lap battle there by Joest and Drew Matthews. Drew probably being the deserving driver of that win, but Joest's strategy, consistency and raw pace brought him the victory in the end. That was fantastic by both those drivers. I wouldn't have said one of those deserves to win more than the other. And like I say, both drivers equally made it themselves. And I can just say as well, if you look at the rain now, just as the checkered flag drops, we've got a fair bit of rain coming down now as well. So
You're on the right.
Drew will be very pleased with that outcome as well. I mean, the Porsche Cup car there from you should have finished where it finished, so Drew can't be too disappointed. But when he was so close to the end there, and if it had just lifted those 4 seconds, he would have won himself a lap earlier. So he shouldn't have held on for another lap because of the class differences, as I said earlier. So result as expected, but still nevertheless very fun to watch.
Alright, that is going to do it for today's video. I still cannot believe that I won my class. I'm so pumped about it. I hope this was a fun video to watch. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, drop a like and consider subscribing. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.